Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We're at the dock. I finally got my angle iron on here. I'll show it to you at the end of the video.
It looks really good.
And getting pumped. We're gonna put some tiki torches that are propane. And
I even went swimming.
table. She went swimming in it yesterday, day before yesterday.
He's like, is it not too cold? I'm like, heck no, it feels good.
But we've got a ton of news to get through, and
We
I've
do.
got some things that people reached out to ninjanationreport@gmail.com and sent me. And I really appreciate it. There's so much stuff, I can't get through all of it, and some of it I just can't talk about because we've lost our First Amendment at this juncture. But this is from Tay-Tay. His grandfather's in the pallet industry. Now, this is a bellwether, guys. You know, when pallets drop off, you know what else is about to drop off. But check this out. The wooden pallet business has slowed down even further. I talked with my grandfather who started the business, and he said that things are so slow. He had an employee that had been there for 30 years that he had to let off work, not lay off, but he just had to let him go.
And they've done that to you before.
Because they were so slow, absolutely. He said it hasn't been that way since '08. So we all know what happened in '08. It's starting to get faster. It's already starting to happen. He said he doesn't know how they've been able to keep it going, the economy going this long, but he's preparing for things to hit the weed eater.
He said, I know I've mentioned it before, but no one is buying things, and the pallet business is the first sign. And when he said that, I actually ran across the story, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this backs it up. This is exactly what's happening.
Yeah, things hitting the weed eater was me hitting dog poop with a weed eater about 10 years ago. Wide open without a guard on. Or longer, yeah. I'll never forget it. It was all over my face. A dog poop won't hurt you guys, I guess, because I was over inundated with it.
He was. I'm not good at doing the weed eater, so I was waiting on him to do it, and I forgot and did not pick up the dog poop. And well, he hit it with the weed eater, and let's just say it was interesting. But
do you want me to?
So
yeah, go ahead.
Backing that up, that first story that you were just talking about. So this backs it up with what's going on. And before you guys, we get a little. I've got probably 10 different articles. He's got different bonus stuff. We're going to talk about.
Yeah, we're just going to go.
So just hang with us. But we got some really good stuff. I think that you guys, for a couple things that's coming up this week that I think we need to pay attention to. Is in the United States on Wednesday, we're going to have our CPI come out. Thursday is Germany's CPI come out, and then the figures for France and Spain on Friday. And those are some of the countries that I've been keeping an eye on, especially France and Germany. I've really been kind of paying attention to them, especially what's going on with different things across the world. But let's go on to what this guy was talking about with the wood pallet business. So if you back that up, and let's say, okay, people are not buying as much, this just proves it. U.S. online prices are declining for a 7th month on an annual basis. And they were saying it's even dropped another 1.7 in March. It shows all these different categories that they track. And they said prices have slid 24.3 from March 2020. But this is what the kicker is. This isn't food. This is flowers, related gifts, electronics, toys, appliances, home, garden products. I've noticed even when I've gone to places like TJ Maxx and Ross's, because those are two of my favorite places, there will be a ton of goods when it comes to like home appliances and stuff like towels. And well, I struggled. There was a shortage of towels for a little bit, but rugs and different things like that. But if you go to the grocery store, it is empty. You know, you've always got holes in the different things.
Yeah, we were talking about this. There's a glut of goods that we don't actually have to have.
Right.
And you know, they're starting to show up. I saw where they were actually laying off workers at the port. That was in California, had all the big vessels out there floating around trying to get unloaded. Because there's, back when it all started, you know, there was a big problem. Now they laid off, and now they're just starting to get people back in. You know, it really threw a big kink in the supply chain. But we're seeing that glut of goods. We're also seeing, you know, groceries really expensive. And you know, it's just.
One side note on that, this is just kind of a little interesting tidbit that I come across every now and then. And you guys, you know this happens, but they track 1 trillion visit to retail sites. And what made me kind of stop and think about that when I was reading this article is I just talked to a sweet little couple the other day, and they were like, hey, you guys, why am I getting these coupons in? How do they know what I'm purchasing? And I'm like, do you have one of those little savings card when you swipe, you get so much off? They're like, yeah. I'm like, They're tracking everything that you're purchasing, everything. And speaking about pricing and all that stuff that's going down, let's talk about Apple a little bit and what's happening with them. Because they're another
Yes,
thing that's
Apple
getting hard.
says personal computer shipments declined by 40.5%. That is a big hit.
Huge.
In the first quarter, the worst drop since the final 3 months of 2000.
Yep.
And, that was a really wild crash back then. And I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was this bad. After sluggish demand and an industry-wide glut hit the Mac maker, especially hard, shipments by all PC makers combined slumped 29%.
Yep. They said it was to 56.9 million units. And they were even talking about how that people aren't buying as much electronics anymore, even when it comes to cell phones, and you and I have talked about that a little bit, and even laptops and things like that. I think when it first happened and people were staying home to work, but since then I think people are not investing in that as much anymore. And the guy even came out and said, "Go ahead."
If you think about people not buying iPhones, not buying the newest gizmos and gadgets, what do you really get? A better camera?
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah, and so I think people are holding off. I mean, I know you probably have an iPhone 10.
Yeah.
And you're not really looking to
Nope.
upgrade.
Works.
It works.
It freezes
It's
every now
fine.
and then, but I just turn it off and turn it back on.
Yeah, well, that's par for the course. But that's one simple thing people can cut.
That's exactly
and that's
right.
what they're doing. We're starting to see discretionary spending get
Yep.
cut big time.
So based on that, from what I'm understanding, because there was a shortage of chips, but now, well, for mainly I think the vehicle chips, but now when it comes to this computer stuff and stuff that they're coming up with, they're like, okay, now there's too much of it, I guess. Well, anyway, South Korea though the president just came out the other day and made a national meeting, strategy meeting or whatever.
It's today.
It was today, yes, today. And he has said that they are going to boost competitiveness of the country's rechargeable battery and semiconductors because it is heavily dependent on this trade and chip exports. I did not realize how much I knew they did, but I didn't realize to what extent. And like with Taiwan and different places like that. And he said the problem is I guess their local neighbor China has not been purchasing much from them because there's been some issues there. So even Elon Musk has come out and said, hey, you guys, the U.S. needs to do an incentive we need to get some U.S.-based companies here. We are way too dependent on Taiwan, South Korea, Brazil, India, all these different places that we get stuff from, not to even mention China.
Yeah, we need to hurry. I know they're putting in a couple of chip plants, some big ones, but it takes a long time to build them. We're behind the 8 ball on that one.
Well, you got to get employees. You got to build the factory. You got to get the machines, and good luck getting some of that.
And employees and everything that comes with it. But I do believe they're working towards that. Speaking of China, China boosted its gold reserves for the 5th straight month. This is all news like from today and yesterday.
Yes, it is.
It's just wild, guys. Get ready. We're getting a Thunderdome. Extending efforts by the world's central banks to boost their holdings of precious metal, the People's Bank of China raised its holdings about 18 tons in March, according to the data on the website. Total stockpiles now sit at about 2,068 tons. You did some math on that.
Yeah, you're better at math than me, so you do it. Because I did the
numbers.
numbers.
In a ton, there's 32,000 ounces. Is that?
That's 32,000 ounces in 1 ton.
1 ton, 2,068.
I did it times the 2,068 tons, and that's what I came up with.
66,176,000
ounces of gold.
Ounces
I'd love
of
to
gold.
see that.
Yeah, that'd be wild.
That'd be quite. I'd love to swim in it.
Well, after growing by about 102 tons in the 4th months before March, nations have been building up stockpiles of bullion amid heightening geopolitical risk and high inflation. Good. I mean, somebody's thinking clearly.
Well, and if you look at the biggest buyers in January, tell who the biggest buyers are.
Yeah, that was
Turkey,
that is
China,
really,
Pakistan. I mean, that's those are the Shanghai corporation groups that we've been talking about and screaming for a year that they're forming. Those are the ex-Soviet countries and Russians involved in there and all those different things, and they're against us.
the world is buying gold and they are de-dollarizing. It's that simple. It's on every news outlet there is. It's no longer some guy on YouTube telling you. It's the mainstream media.
Well, and this is according to the World Gold Council, and from what I understand, that based on their records, that we only know very limited what they've purchased. I think they did a wave in 2016. They did a wave in 2019. They just finished another however many months wave of purchasing. So I'll be curious to see how this all plays out. Speaking of which, one more little interesting tidbit about precious metals. Thanks to Crop Duster, thank you for putting that in the comments, and then a few other people that have reached out. In Israel, something's passing over us.
It's an airplane.
A little small airplane. In Israel, every piece of precious metal that you report, from what I understand now at this point, you have to report.
That's going to happen. It's going to happen. I think it's going to happen here too.
That's going to not be something I'm not going to, because as of now, you guys, I don't report it. That's not
I
something
can
I'm
hear
going
it
to like.
now. I can hear it now. If all these other countries go to a gold back something or another, or commodity, the people that have been hoarding precious metals are going to be called hoarders. They're going to be, we gotta know who's got what. I don't think they'll make it illegal. That would be really stupid, in my opinion, on them. But they always make the wrong move, it seems like. But that is very interesting.
No, it is. So thanks, for giving me that information, because I would have known that. Obviously, we don't live in Israel. But speaking still again about China and Brazil, or China and the dollar and gold and all that kind of stuff, they've just made a deal with China. I mean, Brazil has, and they have said that they're going to be trading in their own currencies. They're going to completely go around the dollar. So normally they'd go to the dollar and then go back to the other country or whatever. And they said it is going to help them conduct their massive trade and financial transactions directly, instead of going through the U.S. dollar, the almighty greenback.
It's every day. And I even saw CNN put out news like this.
The next story we're going to cover is about that, about Saudi Arabia and China.
It's over and over.
Yep.
They're doing business outside the dollar. They're moving to gold. That's what's happening.
It was a high-level China-Brazil business forum in Beijing. And just keep going on this. Another story right after this, you guys. And I don't even have this printed off. This is just based off of what I've been hearing and listening online. But look at the France president. I mean, he just showed up and made a visit and said, quote, "We are not going to follow what the U.S. policies or what they want us to do regarding Taiwan." And they've always been our allies. Sorry, sometimes I screw words up. But so it's just, every time you turn on it's a one little story here, but then you start connecting them all together.
They're actually not little stories. This
No.
is huge news. If this would have came out a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I guess compared to everything else, it just sounds so small.
Now it's just the frog in the pot of hot water, and it's starting to boil, and nobody's, oh yeah, that's okay.
Yep.
We're always going to be the world reserve currency for some reason. We just don't really know why. And it's slipping away, guys. It's going to change the way this country is, period. The way we buy goods, the way we function, everything's changing, and it's getting faster every day.
It is.
I mean, this news is it's really wild.
I guess you and I were talking about this. So here we go. With Chris and I, we have conversations like this. So it seemed like when we would talk about this, it would be like backdoor meetings. It would be something that you would just hear. You were like, oh, they met. What did they talk about? You would hear somebody would admit that they actually flew somewhere to a certain country, and you're like, what was the discussion? But nothing was ever released. Well, they just come flat out now and tell you.
I don't know if they can hide it. It would be hard with all social media and everything.
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, they come out and make public statements, though.
Yeah, maybe so.
I mean, they used not to do that. Now, I don't know if somebody would tap the phone, maybe in the meeting. I know there used to be people that would take shorthands in meetings, and then they would sometimes leak some of that information. But they just come out and make statements
they still
now.
have meetings behind closed doors.
I'm sure they do.
They're not telling us everything. But yeah, they're pretty open about it. But you look at the wealth. Look at, it's all there. The people that are running this place have been groomed by these people.
They have been.
It's out in the open. I mean, you can, just like the white paper on the woohoo bat flu.
Yep.
I mean, that came
out
out 3 years before it happened. Yep. The economic ninja was telling everybody and thought he was crazy.
Yep. But this is the one you were talking about, CNN. I mean, they actually came out, and CNN doesn't really say much, like, at least when I've watched them, and I try to catch them every now and then just because I like to see their perspective and what they have to say. Yeah. They came out and stated, and this is, quote, "China and Saudi Arabia are getting closer. Should the U.S. be worried? Question mark. And the reason they're talking about that is because they just did a landmark agreement, if they manage to pull it off, where China actually hosted it and got Saudi Arabia and Iran together and to agree, because there's been so much conflict between the two countries. And China is saying, we're going to be the peace person. We're going to be the one to negotiate this deal. And even the Saudi analyst came out and said, this traditional monogamous relationship with the U.S. is now over, he said. And we have gone into a more open relationship, strong with the U.S., but equally strong with China, India, the U.K., France, and others. And this has apparently extremely alarmed Washington. So we'll see. And once again, it's part of that Shanghai Cooperation Organization that I have talked about. Keep going.
No, it's just...
And the interesting thing that I noticed that came out of this meeting, and we've talked about this earlier, is the fact that all countries have agreed that they will not interfere with different policies that's going on in their country, including like human rights and different things like that. Because, we've stood up before with other countries and said, you can't treat certain people like this, or...
try to be the big daddy of all countries.
I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, so we don't care how you get whatever you're getting. You can enslave your people and treat them poorly. We don't care. We're just going to do business. Us higher elites are going to do business up here, and whatever you want to do to your people's fine. Is that what you think?
No, it's clearly stated. They clearly spelled it out. They said in this landmark meeting that they did, they said it's going to be a policy of non-interference in each other's domestic affairs when they made this landmark visit. So this is something that they have
just
put.
One more. Hey, it's so much better than the dollar. When you do business with us, we don't tell you what to do. It's like icing on the cake for them,
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that plays out.
We'll be doing stories about it for a long time, I'm pretty sure.
Speaking, just one more little side note before we go on to what's kind of going back to the U.S. I want to hit up Egypt just a little bit, because we've been talking about other countries and how that they... Here, let me get that for you.
No.
How they get that.
Skippy's going to get it.
Skippy's going to get it. Here you
Drop
go.
my paper.
So we've been talking about other countries and what goes on in other countries, because a lot of that stuff does actually come back to hit us sometimes, and I think it's important to pay attention. Egypt's headline inflation rate increased to 32.7 in March. And I guess this is why I kind of thought this was a little bit interesting or important just to take a look at. One, it was continued delays in getting import goods into the country. Also, they received a $3 billion financial support package from the International Monetary Fund, which is IMF. We've all talked about that. It devalued their currency by half since March 2022. Wow. And the increase in the food prices and just all these kind of different things. So they got help from another country, or from the IMF, the organization, devalued their currency. They cannot get goods and services in. Prices are going up, and the inflation is going through the roof.
Yeah.
So that's just...
Everybody's doing the same thing. They're printing money.
Yep.
This is the end of this cycle, and now we're about to experience something different. It's happening all over the place. It's not just us.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And I guess that's the thing, is a lot of people are like, oh, no, this is a global thing that we're experiencing at this point. This isn't just something that's U.S., or this something that's Syria, or this isn't something that's just a third world country or whatever. But let's go back to the U.S. a little bit. Let's talk about the commercial properties.
Yeah, that was really interesting. I think they're going to do some type of stimulus to bail them out. But go ahead and read it. I don't have that one on here.
Oh, okay. So there it said it's a 1.5 trillion wall of debt that's coming. And Morgan Stanley has said that they're going to see property valuations fall as much as 40%. And you guys, we have been talking about this, and we started kind of talking about it with the malls. We started talking about it with the strip malls, because it's built on so much debt. And if you guys do any kind of commercial investing, it's completely different than a housing loan. You only get a few years fixed, and then after that, the loan either comes due or you got to refinance. And at this rate, the interest rates are going to be too high. They're not going to have enough equity. Renters are not paying the bills for these different... Well, we just talked to that guy that was in Florida that your dad did, and he was...
Yeah, he did really good. He got in at 2006, and he started seeing it in 2006. He started buying after 2008, and he sees it again. He said he had a retail business that was losing $20,000 a month.
Jeez.
And he was just, he was getting out. And the people that are barely making it, Skippy, you're in the camera too much.
He's hogging the limelight, and I'm talking too fast again.
When these people that are this far from going belly up, this is going to smack them big time. But I think the government's going to come out with some type of stimulus because we can't have all these businesses. You can't have all these businesses go belly up.
I'm curious. I want to talk about this with you. So listen to this. Almost 1.5 trillion of U.S. commercial real estate due is coming. It's coming due the end of 2025, and that is coming up on us fast. I mean, we're already a quarter of the way in through 2023.
2020, there's going to be so much news between now and then, there's no telling. We'll be looking at not commercial 40-year mortgages, but residential 40-year mortgages. I think I heard that from the Economic Ninja. It's hard for me to believe, but I believe it. I think we absolutely will one day.
I could see them doing
that.
it. Look, they've already upped the auto loans. It used to be 3 years, then 5 years. Now we're 6, 7 years. Absolutely. One more thing before we start talking about this
you in debt.
is I did not realize that in the last couple of years how many small banks have gotten invested into this commercial real estate market. I did not realize that. And I guess I just wasn't paying enough attention, but I should have realized it because we've gone to small banks and gotten commercial loans for our investment property. So that is true. But now these small banks are being hit because the bigger banks are being bailed out, as we know, what just recently happened with a few of them. And then a couple of the big banks went and bailed out a few other ones, and these small banks are not getting their deposits anymore. So they are saying they're the ones that are going to probably get hit. So it's kind of making me think a little different then. I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to revisit some of our banks and just kind of see what they have on the books.
Well, we know we can't really trust the banks. They got the bailout on the books. And bail-ins, yeah.
Yep.
And
anyway,
I just don't think they're going to let everything fail like they're supposed to.
So I like when we talk about this. So let's just talk about this for a second. So what do you think are the possibilities then when you get these companies? I mean, don't talk the small mom and pops. We're talking about Caterpillars. They were struggling for a while, I know, back in the 2008 thing. Different things like this, the bigger ones, the Ford, the auto industry. So what do you think they'll do then? They'll do stimulus checks, they'll do SBA loans, they'll do payroll protection like they did this last time around?
I think we live in capitalism. It's no longer capitalism. And the actual economy is divorced from reality. And the people that run this place, the people that are in the club that we're not in, I don't think they're going to let their buddies fail. They're going to stimulate.
I'm just curious how.
In any manner. Well, you name it.
Okay.
Artificially lowering the interest rate. They could come out tomorrow and say, hey, we've got inflation under control. They could manipulate the way they do the CPI, say it's coming down, and they could start stimulating, or they could do some type of, like I said before, 40-year, that type of stimulus. Not exactly just print money, but stimulus is in all kind of different forms. I'm pretty sure they're going to start doing this green energy stimulus.
Subsidizing and stuff?
Yeah, for solar panels.
Yep.
They're going to want you to do all this green windy stuff because all their friends are in that.
So if you have
That's
a better
what they're pushing.
carbon footprint, you might get a better deal for a commercial loan or something like that.
Yeah, if they can push you over to their buddy's electric car, or
speaking of which, I forgot to look it up before we came out here. The White House was supposed to come out today and do some kind of announcement about exhaust pipes on cars. Have you guys heard about that? If so, please put it in the comments. They're going to do some kind of regulation, some fees or something, and they're going to push you toward electronic vehicles. They were supposed to come out today, and I forgot to look that up.
They're all going to push towards the green stuff. Just try to think about that. What do you do? Where do you make your investments? See where the government's investing. I learned that from Robert Kiyosaki. He was buying green bonds years ago.
He was. You told me about that.
And I didn't know enough about it, and I tried to talk to him about it, and he was rude about the whole thing. He didn't want to talk at all. But it was... we're going to be pushed in that way. We're going to be pushed towards the green stuff. So that's when we're going to get our solar panels, when they're, when they're given a bigger subsidy. And they're already doing like 50% now.
They're doing quite a bit.
40, maybe it's 40.
Your
you
friend
can
Bud
write
Light
off
did
40%
about
of it. Yeah. Yeah, that was really cool. You should watch that video. I'll actually pin it in the comments. But the next story.
Let's talk about FedEx real quick, and then I want to hear some of your bonus stuff and some of those people that have called in and different things like that. We'll hit one more business story. So FedEx is going to overhaul a future with no drivers on payroll. And that was the headlines, but it kind of went into it a little bit more. So I actually did a little bit, I was telling Chris a little bit of history about FedEx. And it was really interesting. And we've done businesses, so I guess I kind of appreciated it, where this guy, he said it was 20 private jets. He converted it to freighters back in 1973. The first day of operation, they delivered 186 packages. And then he bought a trucking business and so on and expanded it. But basically, they're going to take this company and they're no longer going to have employees on payroll. They're going to do contract
I know all about
employees.
that work.
Yeah, you do.
So that makes sense. So they don't, if work's slow or they think work's going to slow down, you would get rid of your hourly employees or your salary employees and you would hire contract employees. You'd probably pay them a little more, and then when times get slow, you just, hey, don't show up today.
Right.
You know, and yes, they'll have to cover their insurance, which our insurance just went up $100 a month yesterday.
Yeah, it did. I got to deal with that.
You'll have to do all these other things, but I'm very familiar why they would do that.
But so I'm curious though, if you're with FedEx right now, what does that mean for you? Because I'm assuming a lot of these drivers had pensions, retirements, health insurance, paid leave, paid sick leave, vacation. I'm sure they had some kind of policy on that. So where does that leave them? I don't know. And then you do these 1099. I'm telling you, if you are a FedEx driver and you're a 1099, get an LLC, write it off.
Yeah, no doubt.
I would. And
yeah, there's going to be some people that do good through this, that see the writing on the wall. And I'm not sure how to do it on the FedEx deal. I know that UPS, a family member actually does a lot of business with them, and I know they are acting crazy. I don't even think they do business with them anymore. They were one of their biggest trucking dispatchers, and now they're just being so hard to deal with. I want to say he said 120 days. They wanted to pay them every 120 days. That's more than enough time to go belly up. That's crazy.
And they wanted to give them shipment places that they didn't even have trucks in and stuff like that.
Just being hard to deal with. And, I suspect that shipping in general is going to get even worse. It's going to get more expensive. And when you have, maybe the subcontractors will do a better job than the hourly employees. Maybe they'll be, a little bit, when you do the contract thing and you could be gone tomorrow, sometimes it makes you work a little harder.
Makes you hustle.
Yeah.
But tell you had some bonus things that you would kind of come across from different people.
Yeah, this is a couple bonus things. Guys, if you hadn't hit the like button, please do. It helps this video, helps the information get out. Thank you for being here. This was from a subscriber. I didn't write your name down, I'm sorry. But it was about the vaccines in the food. Since news of the development of mRNA vaccines and mRNA-related treatments for livestock came to the attention of the Texas Department of Agriculture, we have been working towards developing a fact and science-based assessment of the risk associated with this technology. Our analyst will include the clinical research. Okay, the reason I wanted you to know that is because it's one thing to hear some talking head say, hey, they're putting it in the food and all this stuff. This is from the Texas Department of Agriculture. This isn't me saying something that might happen. I mean, they're pushing this, and I want to know what's in my food. I want to know, and when we're buying our chicken food, how do you know what's in it? How do you know you're not getting that crap one way or another? So this is really scary. Pestilence is a big deal in the Thunderdome, and it seems like it's going to get worse. But just mull on that. Google it, research it, figure out where it's at, what it's in. I can't talk about it a lot. They'll smack me down. I won't be able to be on here anymore. But another thing from 007, he sent this to ninjanationreport@gmail.com. Thank you for doing that. And anybody else that does it, thank you. I appreciate it. And any kind of information you want me to give out, I will, if I can. But some things I can't talk about, like I said. He found some reports about gold standard showing increase of gold, if the gold standard's brought back kind of stuff. And he was saying, where are people getting these dollar amounts? One of them was $350,000 an ounce. Now, as hard as that is to believe, where it's not just crazy is there's no amount that the dollar cannot go down. There's no floor for the dollar, and there's no ceiling for gold. So I mean, they could separate in a big way. Gold will be worth the same. It'll just take more of that currency to buy it. And go buy an ounce of gold in Jamaican money.
Yeah, good
It's
luck.
150 to 1 to the dollar.
Yeah.
It's happening all over the globe, and we're going to see. I don't know the price, guys. But by this time, a jug of milk will be. I don't know how much a jug. Way over $100. All these things are going to get more expensive as they devalue the currency. Every time they do this stimulus stuff, you were talking about stimulus earlier, and how might they combat the 1.5 trillion,
The businesses and all that kind of stuff, yeah.
They showed their hand at the SVB thing.
They did. The
They
SBA
showed
loan.
their hand on what they're going to do.
Yep.
Oh, no. Well, we'll raise interest rates, and it's crashing the economy, and people are losing their jobs. But wait a minute, these are our startup buddies. These
Right.
are the guys. No, we can't let our tech buddies go down. Just bail them out. Nobody's hurt here.
Well, they were giving them
here's
SBA
25
loans
billion.
at like 2.9% or something crazy. Commercial loans at 30. That was 30-year fixed.
You're probably going to get to see who survives, and you'll know exactly who's in the club. So.
I guess so.
Anyway, there's no way to tell how far the dollar will go down. So there's no $350,000 an ounce. That might be a deal in the Thunderdome. I don't know. We just don't know what everything else will be worth either.
I know every time it goes up, we look at each other and go, "Man, we should have bought more when it dipped." But
Yeah, we try to buy try to keep 10% and try to buy extra on the dips.
We do.
And that's just what we do. I'm not saying you guys do the same, but that's what we do.
I have one more
There's
thing I
bugs
want to
and all kinds of
mention. This
stuff
is
on
also thanks to a subscriber. And I actually looked this up because I'd heard about this and I knew they'd been pushing it back. But you're going to start needing, in the United States, you're going to need a special type of license, driver's license. It's called an ID to travel. So my sister actually just went and had her driver's license renewed, so she switched it over to that. It's a form of a passport, but it still looks like a driver's license. And they've been trying to push this for years. May 2023, they were supposed to say, yep, everybody's got to have it. But at this point, I read the stats, it only looks like 50% of United States citizens have it, so they're considering pushing it back even more. But just heads up, you guys, if you are planning to travel in the United States on an airplane, you might at least take a look at it. So I guess when I get mine renewed next, that's something I'm going to have to look into.
Yeah, and
especially if you don't have a passport.
do you remember that video I did at CES, Consumer Electronics Show
In Vegas, yes.
Vegas?
Yes.
They had a machine that when you walked up to the machine, it would analyze your face and the doors would open. And it was going in airports. And I said, when's it going in? Oh, in something 23. Well, I didn't get home good, and I left again to go
Canada.
to Vancouver. Yeah. And it was at the airport in Canada. You walked up, you looked at this thing, it analyzed your face, and it opened the doors for you. This will be a digital ID pretty quick. Skippy's hogging up the camera again. He's so nostalgic. He's half dog and half possum.
Hey,
I'm pretty sure.
Before we go, I just want to make one more comment. That you guys, we've all heard about the news today that happened in Louisville and the different shootings, and it was like 2 within just short distance from each other. Matter of fact, I had a subscriber reach out to me. She had a daughter that wasn't working far from there and couldn't get a hold of her. And man, I feel you. You were panicking, and I got it. And talked to you a little bit. And it's different rumors about what happened and what didn't happen. But the bottom line is, I just want to say prayers to all you guys out there. If you know of anybody that's been affected, our thoughts are with you. Nobody ever expects that when you walk into a bank or you go to a community college or any of these things that's happened recently, and just our thoughts and prayers are with you.
Yeah, I can't imagine. This is going to put so much pressure on our Second Amendment. It's going to put, I was on Twitter earlier, and there's people lashing out in there. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
The only thing that stops a bad person, man or woman, with a gun is a good man or woman with a gun. That's it. That's the you know, you look at everywhere that's done away with guns, and it is not a very good place to live. You know, it's going to get worse. So, guys, I hope you have an awesome, awesome day. Thank you for being here. And if you made it to the end of the video, put hashtag Skippy. He's a possum dog.
He's
we don't
a
know
mutt.
what he is. He's Heinz 57 for sure.
He's
We
the
set his
best.
blood work off, and then there was a rap sheet this big come back. They didn't know what it was. They just put every dog that was on the
He's
planet
got
on
mud
there.
all over his face now. He's been digging. All right.
Later, guys.
Bye.